Okay, we're going to take a quick look at the Dehaze uh, in Adobe Camera Raw. So we've selected this raw image in Adobe Camera Raw, and we've done some cropping on it and gotten it ready. It just looks a little bit what we would call flat. In other words, it doesn't have a lot of contrast because of the soft evening light and the cloudy day. So we're going to go to the Effects tab, and there's a Dehaze slider. And we're just going to slowly pull that slider to the right until we get it. If we go all the way to the right, it looks kind of overdone. So we need to be careful that we just kind of maybe about 25 will do it. And then that the dehaze is applied, the image is looking good. Now, if we want to do some vignetting, we can darken the corners. We can get real carried away, but normally we would, or we can lighten the corners with the vignetting tool. So we're just going to darken it just a little bit to bring more attention in on that subject. Now we're going to go back to the basics. The exposure we don't need to adjust. The highlights, we might want to see if we bring some of those down a little bit. That helps. Bring the shadows down a little bit. Bring the blacks down so we can, and maybe just give it a touch of clarity. Okay, add a little vibrance. Desaturate. We don't need any saturation adjustments. So I'm overdoing it just a little bit so you can see what it does. Generally, you'd be a little more subtle in doing these edits. We'll go on then to the hue, saturation, and grayscale. There's the hue, so we have the various colors there, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, greens, etc. And if we just let's grab the greens, see how it affects only the grass. So I can make that grass really kind of an emerald green, or I can tone it down. Right now this one looks pretty good just as is. Saturation, if I want to saturate the greens a little more, or I want to pull them down, I can do that. And luminance. Luminance is how bright things will be in the image. So if I want to darken the greens, I'll pull that down. If I want to see if there's anything with oranges, yeah, that'll bring those plants down. Or in this case, I think I want to raise that a little bit, see what happens with the yellows, to make that grass a little brighter, to give a little more contrast in this area. So the luminous is the brightness, the saturation is how deep the colors, and the hue has just kind of controls the brightness and the vibrance of the colors. Over here is split toning. We don't need to work with that. Lens corrections, we can, if there's lens corrections that are occurring, we can use that to enhance those. So we want to remove chromatic aberration, set up default. We can go auto and it'll automatically do it. Notice that it picked up the name of the lens and the profile and added it in there. Under FX, there's the dehaze that we used, and then we can add grain. Camera calibration, we won't be getting into this in this tutorial, but camera calibration you can use to custom calibrate your camera the way you want it to edit your files. Presets, there's no presets loaded in here, but we could create a preset and add it to here. So we're going to save a new camera preset, and it should save it as a preset. And finally, snapshots. We don't have anything in there. We don't need to use that for anything at this point. So as we're editing, we want to look at the monitor, watch the histogram up here to see what it looks like as we make our changes. Everything here falls nicely into the midtones, and the highlights are clipped. There's not much for highlights, but that's understandable since there's really no super bright spots in there. There's no real whites. There's no real deep blacks either. So this is all going to fall in the midtones. So take a look, play with your images in camera.